Hey there! Welcome back to another Westerly Weekly. I thought this week we would talk a little bit about the story behind the name Westerly. A lot of businesses go by that person's name, and I chose not to do that. So I thought I would tell you the story about the name and a little bit more about me and my family. So why don't we start at the beginning? Whenever I say that, I always think a very good place to start. I come from a long line of fashion retail entrepreneurs. My great-grandmother owned a boutique in New York, and when my grandfather came back from the war, from World War II, he joined forces with her and ran the shop together. Eventually, the business was run by my grandfather and his brother, and they had this shop in Brooklyn, New York. It was a women's underpinnings boutique. Gotta love that it's called women's underpinnings, but underwear, like your undergarments back in the day. I always really admired my grandfather because him and my grandmother and my mother were in a car accident when my mom was just 5 years old. It was a terrible car accident. They were hit by a drunk driver up in the Catskills of New York, and my mom was paralyzed for the rest of her life. She's been in a wheelchair forever, basically. But I just think about the fact that my grandfather had this business to run and this boutique to make successful, and it had to be successful because the livelihood of his family and his little girl's life now depended on it. I can't imagine the weight on his shoulders knowing that his daughter's life was going to look totally different than he had thought maybe in his head, but also that his business had to succeed to make all of that work. We went back to Brooklyn for a family event this past year, and I got to see the building where it all began. And that really got me. I totally choked up, and it was a very emotional moment for me. But there's still a building there that is connected to my family, and it's thriving with other businesses, but it's always a nice thing to kind of come back to where it all began. Fast forward to the next generation of store owners, and my aunt and uncle owned a boutique. So they owned actually a few boutiques, prom, bridal, that whole deal. And I would run around in their store, and I would be part of their radio commercials when I was 6. I was surrounded by gowns and tiaras, and it was a really good childhood, let me say that. I always looked up to this family legacy that related back to fashion. When I decided to pursue fashion as my career and go to the Fashion Institute, my family was thrilled, and I was really excited to continue that legacy. When it came to starting my own business, I wanted to nod to the family history that I have. My grandfather's business name was Westerly Shops, and I was named after my grandfather, Irving. That's why my name is spelled Alyssa with an I. So I really wanted to make him proud and give a little nod to Westerly Shops. I'm also a California girl. I'm from the West Coast. West Coast, Westerly came together to be Westerly. I hope you guys have enjoyed learning a little bit more about Westerly style and why it is called Westerly. And I hope to see you next week. Have a good one.